Right, picking up where we left off. Again, the blue color is called cyanosis. It's important to know that. It's due to low oxygen in the blood. Again, the color, the blood comes out of your vein when they draw blood in a vial. That's the color, that deep burgundy color. That's the true color of low oxygenated blood. Just going through the collagen, again, in the dermis, makes it appear blue because of the diffraction of light. So birthmarks are basically just an abnormal blood vessel in the dermis. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit larger, and they show up almost like a scab underneath the epidermis. They're not dangerous or anything. They just, not necessarily heredity either. They just show up. So birthmarks, again, are abnormal blood vessels in the dermis, not the epidermis, under the epidermis. Remember, the epidermis is not vascularized. It does not have blood vessels up through it. Jaundice. Jaundice is basically means yellow skin. Okay, so it's a buildup of bilirubin, and bilirubin is a byproduct of a breakdown of your red blood cells, which in turn is changed into bile by the liver. So usually, if you have somebody who's jaundice, not always, but usually, they have a liver problem. The liver is either failing, infected, too weak to produce enough bile, as in newborns, and that causes the buildup of the bilirubin in the blood, which brings about a yellowish color, because again, bilirubin is more of an orange color. So you can see the gentleman up here is jaundiced, has a yellowish pigment to his skin. A lot of times you can see it in the eyes. This child, this baby, a lot of babies are born slightly jaundiced. Again, just put them under light. Just regular bright light helps break down that bilirubin and helps remove that so the baby doesn't look quite so jaundiced. Okay, and here's a nice little diagram of a normal person with a nice pinkish skin. Jaundiced, they're going to get a yellow tint to them. Again, it's accumulated bilirubin in the skin caused by liver and or gallbladder disorders. If the gallbladder, which stores the bile, gets plugged and gets too full, then it backs up in the liver. Bile backs up in the liver, and you get more of a buildup of the bilirubin. Alright, accessory skin structures include the hair, the muscles, the glands, and the nails. The hair root and bulb dips deep into the dermis of the skin. So if you look at the hair shaft up here, you see that this thin layer of epidermis, the epithelial tissue, dips deep down in the dermis, comes all the way down deep in the dermis, and this is the hair bulb. So this bulb is represented by actively dividing cells, which right here comes up a capillary to feed and nourish these actively dividing cells. So the stratified squamous epithelium then is laid on in the cuticle, the hair cuticle, and these little layers of epithelial tissue. They have melanocytes, which produce melanin, which give us our skin color, and also the hair color. As you age, that melanin production decreases in the hair, and so you get this beautiful white and silver hair. Again, you can see the little layers right here of epithelial, squamous epithelial tissue. The hair shaft is the visible portion above the skin surface, and again, if you look closely, you can see the little squamous epithelial tissue laying right there, little flattened cells like we'll see in the hair lab. It is keratinized epithelial cells. That's red, that's bold, that's important. Remember, your hair is mainly keratin protein. So yes, if you're starving and you want some protein, go ahead and eat your hair. It doesn't sound like a good thing to do, but hey, it might help. Alright, the hair follicle is basically an extension, like I said earlier, of the epidermis. There's a nice diagram showing the epidermis dipping deep into the dermis. So if you should fall and scrape your knee and scrape all this epidermis off up here, down to this white dermis, and you think, that's going to leave a mark. It won't. All the hair follicles, the stratified squamous epithelium in here will grow up the hair follicle, out over, and cover, and coat. It'll look white for a while or lighter because it doesn't have the melanin pigment, the fresh epithelial tissue doesn't. But give it about 6 weeks when all that regenerates, and look good as new. This particular gland here looks like a sebaceous gland, as it's kind of fatty and it produces sebum, drops into every hair follicle to moisturize it. This little thin muscle right here is attached to every hair follicle, has one of these little muscles, and when you get cold, they contract and pull the hair follicle up. They're called rector pili muscles. There's also an apocrine sweat gland, which I don't see in this diagram here, but it also drops into the hair follicles. We'll see that later. Okay, whoa, look at that hairy mess. Again, hair is like the stratum corneum, the upper layer of your stratified squamous epithelium. It is keratinized epithelial cells. It's added from the stratum basale deep in the hair bulb. So the hair follicle rests on the dermal papillae. Remember, the dermal papillae are what causes fingerprints. It's those little indentations deep in the dermis, and that is where the little capillaries meet and come up and protrude in the dermis to feed your hair bulbs. Alright, here's a progression of the hair growth. See the hair shaft? I'm not going to test you on anagen, cutagen, and telogen phases, but do know that your hair grows in cycles. So for about 2 to 5 years, any one hair follicle is actively growing. So basically 85% of your hair is in this phase at one time throughout your life. So 85% of your hair right now is actively growing. It's just constantly growing. This little cutagen phase, it only lasts about 3 to 6 weeks. The hair is starting to pull away and die away from the bulb down here, which leads to the telogen phase, or the resting phase, where about 15% of your hair is in this phase, which only lasts 3 to 5 months, where it's slowly coming up and popping out. So every time you brush your hair, if you have hair, and you see all that hair falling out, you think, oh, I'm going bald. It's just 15% of your hair is going through this phase, coming out and getting ready to start afresh. Again, hair grows 2 to 5 years per follicle, then sheds over what's called the telogen period, prior to growing a new hair shaft. Ah, the rector pili. Big bold word, that's important. Again, here's that diagram again. Here's that muscle. Here's an actual slide. Here's the hair follicle. Here's a little tiny rector pili muscle. They cause goosebumps. So scratch a chalkboard, flex your rector pili, and make those goosebumps. Woohoo! What do rector pili look like when they flex? Kitty cat. Goosebumps. Look at the goosebumps. We are pumping you up. Oh, look at the guy in the background. He's a bum by the sea. That makes him a sea bum. Get it? Ha. Alright. Maybe that'll help you remember this if you're a visual learner. Sebaceous glands produce an oil that coats and lubricates each hair follicle to keep it from drying out and cracking, called sebum. Sebum, I should have highlighted that in red and underlined it for you. Sebum, again, is a combination of lipids and cells that are made with it that come out the follicle and coat the hair. As you're going through puberty and high school years, you might put a lot of sebum out and not get all this washed away as well. The bacteria trap under there and get stuck down there and you get a zit. Alright, here's a nice drawing which shows both a sebaceous gland, which produces the sebum. It shows the hair follicle, shows the rector pili, and it does show the different strata over here from your stratified squamous epithelium dipping deep into the hair follicle. Hey, what you been looking for? The lab groups. First hour, this is your group for kitty cat dissections throughout the rest of the year. Fourth hour, that's your group. If your name's not on here, let me know. I think I got everyone on here. Fifth hour, there's your group. Sixth hour, seventh hour, sorry. Seventh hour, you're pretty equal. 4s all the way across. Alright, back to sweat glands. Sweat glands. I love this diagram. Matter of fact, this diagram here you will see on your quiz on Friday. You will also see this diagram on the test. This diagram contains both a little erector pili muscle here, which doesn't photocopy so well. So I've got to pencil it in a little bit on the test. I like the sebaceous gland because it looks really fatty. They drew it nice and big and fatty, so there's your sebaceous gland. It also shows this nice knotted up little sweat gland in here. This sweat gland dumps straight into the hair follicle. These kick in after puberty. Okay, so you don't have these sweat glands active. They're not active until after you've hit puberty. And they produce water plus some other chemicals which dump in here. And they're called apocrine sweat glands, but I like to say apocrine because they make you smell like an ape. They're what give you your stinky smell as you get older, because the bacteria love to eat that organic material. And when bacteria eat, they poop. And bacteria poop isn't like our poop. Our poop is mostly bacteria. Bacteria waste is more different types of butyric acids and such that put off that wonderful nasty smell of armpit and foot odor. Okay, merocrine sweat glands, you have those all over. This is an example of a merocrine sweat gland right here. It shoots straight up and dumps onto the skin surface. Merocrine, they're active all your life. Little kids who are out there and merry, they're all happy and merry because they're playing on the merry-go-round, and they come off the merry-go-round all sweaty. The little wet, sweaty kids coming off the merry-go-round, it's their merocrine sweat glands producing that mostly watery and salty sweat, which really doesn't feed the bacteria that well, so they don't stink as bad. Unless, of course, they don't take a little shower or bath for a few days. So remember, merocrine, merry little kids on the merry-go-round, produce mostly water and salt, active all your life. Apocrine sweat glands make you smell like an ape because they produce organic compounds and they dump into the hair follicle. Now it's time to prep for your quiz. Number 1, yes, apocrine. You guys are so smart. It's apocrine sweat duct. I should say apocrine. 2, oh, you're good. That's the hair follicle. 3, the hair bulb. You're good. 4, oh, I see. 4 is the apocrine sweat gland. 1 is the duct taking it up. Okay, so apocrine sweat duct or sweat duct. I guess I'll accept either one in the quiz. Apocrine sweat gland. 5. Ooh, what is that little thing right there? It's a sweat pore. You can't tell from below what type it is, but it's merocrine. It dumps straight on the skin. 6 again is a sweat duct. That big old tube coming down there. 7, big and fatty. That's right, it's a sebaceous gland. 8, it's that nearly invisible little muscle back there. That muscle which attaches to every follicle. What is that? It's your erector pili. Erector means to stand erect. Pili for the pilus of hair. It's nearly invisible in this picture. And 9, this one, which brings stuff right to the surface of the skin. Yes, it's your merocrine or merocrine sweat gland for merry little children. Ceruminous glands. Hey, Shrek, let's make a candle. Yes, you can make a candle out of earwax. Earwax is modified sebum. It's called cerumen. Cerumen by ceruminous glands. Know the word cerumen. Cerumen is modified sebum. It's thick. It does protect your eardrum, and it is insecticidal. That's why insects do not get in your ear and go in and eat away at your ear. Thank goodness. Because if they try to eat that, it's going to kill them. So, hey, thank you, earwax, for living in my ear canal. Even though I need to clean you out every now and then. Mammary glands. Hey, all you cow milk drinkers, you know what you're drinking? Modified cow sweat. Yes, mammary glands are modified sweat glands that produce milk. In this case, cow's milk is for baby calves. That's why a lot of human babies who drink cow's milk get the runs, because they have a lot of proteins in cow's milk which we cannot digest as humans until we get older and develop the enzymes. Even kitty cats like cow's milk. And they are surrounded by lobes of fat. That's why mammary glands are surrounded by lobes of fat. That's why women's